Hello, this is Britt Caswell with another example video. In today's video, I'm covering example 2 from section 9-5 in the SavvasRealize Algebra 1 textbook. The goal of today's video is to solve an equation using completing the square. So what I did was I actually found this really nice graphic on, I just Googled it and it came up from Mashup Math. I really love their graphic. They did a wonderful job on that, so shout out to Mashup Math for showing the steps and color coding the steps. So if you need the written out steps, here you go. This is perfect for Mashup Math. All right, what I'm going to do is just walk you kind of through the process and kind of say it out loud. So in order to solve by completing the square, it's a little bit counterintuitive because we usually want to get the x's by themselves. So this 16, I'm going to move to the other side of the equal sign. All right, so my expression turns into x squared minus 14x is equal to negative 16. Now I leave a little blank because I'm going to be adding to each side of the equation. All right, remember from example 1 where we had these like yellow pieces that were our c values? I'm adding that into each side to make this a perfect square trinomial so I could factor it. So in order to find that value, I take my b value, I divide it by 2, and then I square that. So I'm adding 49 to each side. So what that means is here on the left-hand side, this is now a perfect square trinomial, and it'll factor as x and then whatever this expression is. So this is a minus 7 squared. And on the right-hand side, negative 16 and 49 is 33. So what we have done here up to this point is completing the square. All right? We haven't solved yet, but we have completed the square of it. All right? Now I'm going to go on and solve. So see how it's really like two big steps of what I'm doing? All right, now to solve this, first thing we have to do is break apart these parentheses by taking the square root. And don't forget, whenever you take a square root, you need to put a plus or a minus. Now the square root of 33, all right, 33 is 3 times 11. So there aren't any pairs for me to pull out of that radical, so it just stays as the square root of 33. And then my last step to get x alone is I need to counteract this subtraction. So I'm going to add 7 to each side. So I have x equals 7 plus or minus the square root of 33. And those are two solutions, right? So it's x plus root 33 and x minus root 33. All right, so that's how to solve it. So this part was all solving. So let's go ahead and let's try this now together. All right, so first, get your x's alone. So I'm going to add 9 to each side. So I have x squared plus 10x equals 9. And then I need to add onto each side of the equation the value that'll make that a perfect square trinomial. So I take my b value and divide it by 2, and then I square that. All right. Now this left-hand side can easily be factored, right? That's going to turn into an x plus 5, because you use this expression here, squared. And then on the right-hand side, 9 plus 25 is 34. So we have, up to here, completed the square. All right, now we're going to go ahead and solve. So in order to solve, I need to take the square root to undo the square. Don't forget your plus or minus, you're deleting a solution. So on the left-hand side, the square and the square root cancel out. And on the right-hand side, I'm thinking about the square root of 34. So 34 is 17 times 2. So there aren't any pairs in that I could pull out of that radical. So it just stays as the square root of 34. And then lastly, to get the x alone, I subtract 5 from each side. So my final solution is x equals -5 plus or minus the square root of 34. Let's go ahead and try that one more time, huh? So step 1, let's get our x's alone. So this turns into x squared minus 8x is equal to 6. And then we need to find a value of c that's going to make this a perfect square trinomial on the left-hand side. So I'm taking -8 and dividing it by 2. And then I take that number and multiply it times itself. So I'm adding 16 to each side. Now, a lot of kids, they tend to make the mistake where they square this number and they call it -16. They forget a negative times a negative is still a positive. So you will always, always, always be adding, no matter if whether your b is positive or negative, okay? So on the left-hand side, I'm left with x minus 4 squared, because I have a minus 4 here. And on the right-hand side, 6 plus 16 is 22. So we have completed the square on that, so now we're going to go about solving it. So I take the square root to get rid of the square, and put your plus or minus, or it's wrong. Alright, so on the left-hand side, I'm left with x minus 4. And on the right-hand side, let's think about 22. 22 is 11 times 2, so there's no pairs there. And then we want to get x alone, so I'm going to add 4 to each side. Alright, so I get that x is equal to 4 plus or minus the square root of 22. So there we have it, y'all. That is solving by completing the square. Until next time.